So, welcome to today's Mindset Call, where we are here each and every Monday, where we pour into our minds to get our mind right. My name is Nikki Southern. I am a financial literacy educator, and I'm excited to be hosting this call. I've been hosting this call now since 2018, every single Monday, and I cannot count 3 times where I've missed a Monday. That's how long we've been doing these sessions, and these sessions, as transform thousands of people who've been coming on here just to really hear a word and to take this word. I encourage you to save the link. It's the same link every single week. Put an alarm in your phone so you are ready to rebuild in whatever capacity you are currently rebuilding in. And so tonight we are looking at um, rebuilding when it comes to finance and also trust. Okay. And we're going to be looking at the root of money issues and then the blockages of trust and how that is connected to our money. And so I'm going to need a little bit of active participation whilst we're on this call. I've just seen like a bunny underneath there. Can you see that? This is a children's madness zone. I can see the bunny under there. But anyway, let me get the chat box up. And I want to ask you this question. Have you ever had somebody take something from you that was yours? Something that you believe was stolen, whether that be in business, whether that be even your trust or an opportunity or something that you shared. Have you ever had anything happen to you that you feel like has been taken or stolen? And I want you to just answer that in the chat box for me right now. I want you to think of something specific. I don't want you to share that with us. But if the answer is yes, then go ahead and put yes in the chat. And I was thinking about a time in my life where I felt like something was stolen from me and my reaction to that thing that was stolen. And actually, it's interesting, Chigs is on here now because that example, he was there. And I remember being, and there's been a couple of occasions where Chigs has been there. He's probably thinking, which example am I talking about? But I remember working when I worked in the bank, and I met a gentleman who was very, very, it was in a very bad way. And he had his overdraft facility completely maxed out. He didn't have any money for food. And he'd come into the bank because he'd had lots of bank charges come out of his account. And I'd served him over a few months and we'd built a rapport. I got to know him. Absolutely amazing gentleman. And he called me by name and he was just like, Nikki, can you help me? Like, come and have a look at my accounts. I don't know what's gone wrong. Something has gone wrong. And how many of us have ever had something come out of our bank account that we weren't anticipating and it set us back? Come on now. I've been there. I don't know if I'm just talking about myself, but put a 7 in the chat if you know what I mean. Like you've planned, you've budgeted for that month and something comes out. And the worst ones are the bank charges, right? When you wasn't anticipating that fee, you wasn't anticipating that charge, and you almost feel robbed, like the bank have just taken your money, right? And this gentleman had come into the bank, and I'd had a relationship, and Chigs will tell you, we had a relationship with all of our customers. We knew them by name. We built a community, especially as I was a bank manager who didn't look like the normal bank manager. And so they connected with me. We resonated. And I was in one of the areas, those of you know Brixton, I was in one of, at the time, it was known as quite a rough area, but I was so down that I could be professional enough in my job, but I could also reason with them on a level. And so I built a lot of good relationships with basically the whole community. So when he came in, I felt his heart and I was like, okay, let's have a look and see what we can do for you. And he shared that, he's been working so hard using the tips that I gave him, and this bank charge has just thrown him off, and he's got no money for food, and he's got this and that and that. And so I sat in the office with him for about an hour, and I was like, let me see if I can refund some of these charges for you. I'm going to refund. And if my memory serves me right, it was just under £1,000 worth of bank charges. And as the bank manager, I had that authority. I could do that. I could hear someone's story. I could see that if this carried on, it would set them back and it would it wouldn't allow them to get out of the black. Do you know what I mean? Like get out of the red or whatever they called it. And so I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to authorize this payment so that you can get the bank charges back in, give yourself a chance. And I'm going to stop all the bank charges from coming out going forward, clean slate so you can start again. Someone tell me if your account was at its maximum overdraft and someone's going to put £1,000 back in there for you and wipe away all the future charges so you can start again. How many of you think that's a pretty decent bank manager? I thought I think I was a reasonable bank manager to the point where head office used to say I'm refunding back too many charges because I would see from the people's point of view and I would exercise my discretion. There's something called bank discretion, where you can make that decision based on, your gut feeling, I suppose, and your experience on helping that customer. And I would exercise that discretion. A lot of people now, you go into the banks, they won't do it, but actually they can. That's a little tip for you. And just off a side note, I used to do it so much that the bank actually was threatening me at one point, saying, if you continue to do this, you're going to be in trouble. But because I was in my contract, they couldn't actually fire me, but they was giving me a lot of pressure and a lot of heat because I consistently was there for the people. And so this day I sat with him for about an hour, and doing all the paperwork, sorting out the refund. And then when I went to do the refund, it always comes up with a secondary authorization, right? So although I was the bank manager, I still needed to get another colleague to just sign it with me to say, okay, I can see what you've done, blah, blah, blah. So I've done all the paperwork and I said, look, the money's going to be in your account any minute. Let me just get the paperwork signed for you and then I'll be back. So hit the button, put the money in his account. He got the notification. The money was in his account. And then I said, look, give me 2 seconds. I went out to go and get one of my colleagues to double sign the documentation. So as I've come back into my office to let him know that the money's in there and, he can go on his merry way, the guy was gone. And I'm like, what's going on? Where's he at? So I left the paperwork there in my drawer, took a new customer, blah, blah, and then served that customer. And then my office landline phone began to ring. So I picked up the office landline. This is after dealing with this other customer. And it was, I think it was my sister or someone saying, like, what's wrong with your phone? I've been calling you and I can't get hold of you. What's going on with your phone? I'm like, my phone? My phone's here in my pocket. I've gone to get my phone. Hasn't homeboy, the guy that I just refunded the £1,000 to, I've gone back and looked on the CCTV. Homeboy stole my phone. Like this, and like it's just a phone, yeah, but when it's got your text messages, pictures, it's just got some sentimental things. And I sat there and I was like, I've just like, you've thieved my phone. Have you stolen my phone? Like I was in awe. I had to go back and look at the CCTV because I was like, there is no way that this brother that I just literally served man, and he has stolen my phone, my whole phone. I went on the CCTV and I saw the guy go into my pocket and take my phone. Mighty Jesus. Now, guys, I told you it's a transparent conversation because we weren't saved back then. I picked up the phone to Chigs and I said, yo, brother, this brother lives 3 minutes away from the bank. I'm going to his house to go and get my phone. I was a mad girl back then, yeah? So Chigs is like, listen, you're not going there by yourself. I'm coming with you. Chigs told the Chigs, bro. And I said, listen, Chigs, if you're here in 5 minutes, I'm going over there and I'm going to get my phone. There was no fair because I said, listen, there's no way on this earth that this guy is going to rob my phone. So lo and behold, Chigs bowls up and me and him go knocking on the door. The funny thing is remember, I've got your address. Like, I have everything about you, bro. Like, Honestly. Now, why am I even sharing this story? Because sometimes you don't even know like the risk that you take under a certain level of violation or pressure, right? And we went there, back then Chigs was a lot bigger. He's semi-pro boxer, on TV. Chigs was doing his thing. And I'm gone there with the boxer next to me. I've knocked the door and someone answered and I went, is such and such here? And they went and called him down. I said, Brethren, go get my phone. Same way I said it. Go get my phone. The man's like, I'm sorry, I sold it already. The way I'm telling you, my blood was boiling. Like my blood was literally boiling inside my chest. And I had a couple of options what I was going to do to this brother. And it's almost like, I don't know what it was. It must be the Holy Spirit, even though I didn't know, I wasn't saved at that time. But it's almost like my career and everything flashed in front of my face. Like, am I going to let this guy destroy what I've built in my career? Am I going to let this guy send me to prison? Am I going to let this guy, am I drawing in Chigs and getting Chigs in trouble? Like the amount of things that could have taken place on the back of this thing, I can't even remember all the details, but I just remember going, do you know what? And I think I said to him, I'm going to give you 24 hours to get my phone back. And then I just walked off and didn't say another word. But it could have went so much different. I'm not going to share other stories where things did go different. But in that story specifically, why I share that is about decision making. And I want us to write this down. I also want to look at what was it about that situation that made me feel violated enough to not evaluate the risks of my life. And if you remember rightly, Chigs, right, when we went to the house, it wasn't his house, it was like a hostel. There was bare people there. It looked like a drug, like people were doing the most. It wasn't really like, it wasn't a nice built up area, put it that way. It could have went so many different directions, but I hadn't even analyzed the risk. I was just so mad that I felt violated. I felt like somebody has, and it's worse when it's someone that you helped, someone that you went over and beyond to serve and to help that individual, and they go and violate you like that. Come on now, somebody. I need someone to tell me if you understand what I'm talking about. It's always the ones that you let close to you. It's always the ones that you've gone above and beyond for. It's always the ones that you almost, you broke the rules for. You were close to doing the most for that person, gave up your time, your energy, your expertise, your support, that turn around and rob you blindly. It's always the ones that you borrowed that money to because they were in desperate need, a good friend that then turned around and never paid you back, or someone that you extend the love and the support and the time and the advice, and you're pouring, they're crying on your shoulder and you're giving them all that advice, and then they only go back to the guy again and then separate themselves from you. It's always the ones that you let in, right? It's always the ones that you let in. And so I had to dig deep into myself and ask myself, what was it about that situation that got me so heated that I didn't think about anything logically or my danger, but it drove me to just go. I was like, listen, I came out, listen, I really showed that I was from South London that day, because not like I think Chigs was like, listen, I'm gonna come for you, I'm coming with you, because I know what you could do, and I don't know if you're gonna hurt yourself or get yourself hurt, because I was literally on smoke that day. And how many of us have reacted in anger, in under pressure, in a way that could have gone a different way? And sometimes we have to look into ourselves and say, where have I been violated before, where that kind of violation upsets me that much, where I put my life at risk? I had to look into myself and ask myself, like, what about, like, where is it deep down that has triggered me? And let me tell you this, when you hear people say, oh, it triggered me, I was triggered, that means that you have given somebody else permission to control you. If you can be triggered in a certain area, it highlights that healing is required because no one deserves that amount of power over you. In fact, why didn't I call the police? Why is it that my first reaction was not to call the police, but to go and handle it myself? You know why? Because when we were growing up, we were told the po-po was the enemy. Don't call the police, they're the enemy. Infama for dead. Who watched Dancehall Queen? Walk and live, talk and dead. Like, we have been brainwashed from a young age. Some of you ain't gonna get that, and yeah, you don't need to, because I know some of you are saved, sanctified, and they never watch films like that, right? But we've been taught that we deal with things. When you're from the streets, you deal with it the street way. And I'm having to learn, especially as a businesswoman, especially as a woman of God, that there are ways that we deal with things according to the word. We can't deal, especially when you have something to live for, like children. Hello. Especially when you realize that you built so much of your reputation, like God has entrusted you with a gift that you can't afford to allow anybody to take you away from the blessings that God has given you. You can't afford, and most of the time, the people that come to provoke you, they ain't got nothing to lose. That guy had nothing, he was on the rocks. It's always the ones that have nothing that want to come and provoke you to destroy your own self. And so I was like analyzing this situation. And notice whenever I come on these mindset calls, guys, I'm always talking about things that, I can physically say that I've been through or I've supported somebody else through or I've seen it. And it's not to highlight the guy or shame the guy or anything like that. This is about self-development. It's about self-growth. It's about understanding that no boy, no girl should be able to draw you out till you change your character. Draw you out till you put your life at risk. To draw you out till you put your money at risk, till you put your heart at risk, till you start putting your family, your lineage at risk. No one should be able to draw you out like that. And so I have, worked really hard since those days on my emotional intelligence of whenever a situation may come upon me, I stop and I say, let me think before I respond. Before I see, and also as well, not allowing losses to change me. And a lot of the time you can tell, person's character when they have a loss. Who are you when you have a loss? Do you become angry? Do you become violent? Do you become ungrateful? Do you become a person that becomes vicious and nasty, nonchalant? Do you become somebody who is a liar or a thief? Under pressure, or do you go like Hannah when she was under pressure, when she felt under pressure, when she felt provoked by a Penina, she decided to pray out and call out to God. And I've worked so hard. Don't get me wrong, ain't none of us perfect out here, but I've worked very hard to have the emotional intelligence to realize this is a Penina in my life. This is a situation that could very much, test my character very much. If I'm not careful, mess me up. Do you know there's some girls that look for rich guys on purpose to flirt with them, sleep with them, so that they can then blackmail them later with video footage to get money? Do you know that when you are called to hire, you've got to be extra vigilant? When you're called for a great a call on your life, you've got to be careful who you associate with. You've got to be careful who you are vulnerable around, right? Let's just look at Samson and Delilah, for example. You've got to be very careful who you allow to draw you out, or the type of spirits that can get you back to your old self. I remember going back into the prisons and, speaking to some of the young men there, and seeing how a lot of them ended up there because listening to the wrong company. Oh, my friend said it would be a good idea to rob the bank. My friend said it was a good idea that we'd never get caught. My friend said it's always me and a bunch of guys, or me and a bunch of girls, or me and this friend, or it's always the company. When the word says that bad company corrupts good character, we got to pay very much attention to that, even if that's ourselves. And I was probably my own worst enemy because I always felt like I had a point to prove. Where did it come from? Growing up, not having enough. So showing that, I'm not going to be like them growing up. Having everyone in my family have a divorce, everyone in my family have no money, either on benefits or working low jobs, no one in my family having buy a house. And I'm like, I'm going to break that. And so dedicated to break it, so focused on breaking it that I get angry if anyone ever attempts to come and mess up my money or mess up anything that would potentially impact the legacy that I want to create. The generational curse that I want to break is so important that if anybody ever attempts to come and separate me from the vision that God has given me, it's going to be serious. But here's the thing, I got to understand with myself how I'm going to project that. So I started to look into myself, and I started to really evaluate certain things. So I want to share something with you guys. Hold up, I'm just going to get something here. And I want to share something with you all. See if I can get this. Just bear with me. This is what happens when the kids come through. Somebody has taken my charge, but we're going to get it plugged in. So I'm going to share with you 7 things that we're going to evaluate. 7 things. How many? Someone type 7 inside the chat for me. 7 things that we need to evaluate. Now, one of these may be something that resonates. 2 of them, take what is and chew out the bones. It's like my pastor says, look at it like a buffet. If you don't eat pork, don't put it on your plate. So, I'm going to give you a few scriptures here just so we can have a look at this. So Isaiah 61:7 says, instead of your shame, you will receive double. And instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. So that means that what was taken will be restored with increase. Does anyone receive that? Proverbs 6:31 says, when the thief is caught, he must pay back 7-fold. So that means it's not equal. It's not partial. This is 7 times over. And one of the things I used to be caught up on is I used to say things like, oh, they're not going to get away with it. They shouldn't get away with it. Listen, they never get away with it. There is always a harvest for seeds that are sown. Understand that. There's always consequences. It may not be the harvest that they're looking for now, but there's always a harvest. So our job is not to get back. Our job is to evaluate. My question was, why did I leave the phone there anyway? Why did I leave the phone in my coat pocket in front of a customer that's struggling with finances? Hello. I started to reflect on myself, right? So, let me go down to 7 things. We're going to get here. One of the things I also had to do is I had to stop repeating what happened to me. Okay. I had to come out of agreement with loss. I had to come out of every agreement with lack and every agreement that I had in my mind of injustice. What does that mean? Oh, everyone I help always hurts me. Everyone I help always steals from me. You know, it's always me. Why me? I don't know if anyone's ever said that. I have said that, right? I had to start saying things like, I decree and declare double for my trouble, that I shall not lack. I declare restoration over my finances. I decree and declare that good people are coming into my life. I decree and declare that those people that come into my life will be appreciative of who it is that I am and who I'm called to be. I decree and declare in my life that I'll have good persons. I'm open and receptive to who God will bless me with, that is going to help me to achieve the purpose and the calling over my life. I declare, expansion and growth over my finances, over my business. I decree and declare that my name shall mean something. I had to change my thoughts. I had to stop speaking lack over myself, stop being in a pity party where I felt like everything was always going wrong. And I challenge all of us to make sure that we speak with authority, that we align with the word of God when it comes to our finances, it comes to our business, it comes to our family, it comes to establishing our life on the word, so that we do not confuse what the enemy wants us to think and believe with the word of God itself. And so here are the things that I had to look at, and I had to do the crop failure. So the first one is obvious: people stealing from you. Number 1, people stole from you. So they could have stole your money. They could have stole your ideas. How many of you have ever had an idea and you told a friend and they went out and executed it? We ain't going to look at it like everyone's stealing our ideas now. We're going to look at it like, you know what? I should have executed that when God told me. My mouth is too big. Sometimes I chat too much. Hello, somebody. Unless you know you have a bona fide, like me and my accountability partner, me and my husband, I've got, my mentor, Pastor Luke, I've got Auntie Anne, I've got my accountability partner, Angela Cruikshank. Like I have certain people in my life, my sister Janet, that I know when we talk, it's solid. But there are times when they've told me you chat too much. Shut your mouth. Who told you to go and share that information? Who told you to share what God has told? When Nehemiah was building the walls, did you guys not see what happened in Nehemiah 1 2? He kept his mouth closed. Other than the king, who he got permission for to leave, he went in secret and went to do what God had told him to do. He went to assess the situation before he even rallied the troops who were going to help him. So every decision that we're about to make, we're now cautious because we're thinking in our mind, everyone always steals from us. And then what happens is we start to question people. We start to question ourselves. Like, have you ever met someone and you're like, yeah, I'm still on the fence. Let's just see how this goes. Something's off about them. there's a spirit there that ain't just right. Or you're the other way. Come on now. And you know how it feels when someone's stolen from you. And so because you see that person, why is it that I saw that guy and it triggered me? Because I'm like, I know what it feels like to have no money. Let me see if I can help him. And so now instead of having your eyes open, guess what? You helping everybody. You're just out there in the streets. I remember when I first got saved. I don't think Auntie Anne's on this call, but I remember I first got saved and me and Auntie Anne were out in the streets and some random person was like, help us. We were in the airport. Help us. We need £500 to get our our suitcases through. And I was just freshly saved. I was like, Auntie Anne, can we help them? Auntie Anne was like, come on, don't see you know them people from anywhere. Like, you just want to help everybody. Like, you don't even think about wisdom. You're not even thinking about your own bank account. You're not thinking about nothing. And you can give out like a fool sometimes. So there's a balance between that as well, where you're either too trusting or you have no trust whatsoever, right? And so, I've had to say to myself, let me stop, let me be accountable, let me just double check my parameters. And let me make sure I'm making this decision not from a place of everybody steals from me, but also not from a place of I know how broke I was, so let me quickly go and we got to assess. How do you assess the situation before you make a decision? Is to think about the outcomes in which that decision potentially could have, right? Here's another one. Number 2, you grew up in lack. Uh-oh. How many of us were raised around struggle? Raised around, save that for tomorrow, rainy day, Sunday, Monday dinner. Everything's got to stretch. Okay, don't mess up your uniform. If you rip your uniform, coming down no money for buy no more. Right? We were getting threatened about destroying our possessions before we even made a mistake because we were told this is the last time I'm buying it this year because if you make a mistake, so on edge, when you grow up in lack, you're not even allowed to make a mistake. If you make a mistake, if you feel like you've had a loss because you've grown up in lack, you now start to reject yourself. You now start to throw in the towel. Oh, maybe this ain't for me. Maybe I'm supposed to be poor. Maybe I shall. And we start to now teach ourselves how not to build because we were brought up in survival mode. So we're taught how to survive, how to just about make it. So when anybody attempts to tell us to multiply, anyone attempts to stretch our mind, anyone attempts to tell us that there is greater or that we should think bigger and that we should change the way we speak, we come off and we want to oppose. Because guess what? We grew up in fear. Even though the word says that we shouldn't have a spirit of fear, that's how we were growing up. Right? Even children should be seen and not heard. We were fearful to even open our mouth with ideas. We were crippled from our imagination from such a young age. So when we're growing up in lack, we have to counteract that and declare that we don't bring in limited mindsets from our upbringing into our life. We have to decree and declare power. We have to decree and declare the wisdom that we have the capacity to stretch, to build wealth, to grow, to have powerful relationship. We have to actually disassociate from the lack identity. I don't know if any of us have ever said, oh, I can't afford that. In fact, me and my husband and my sister were talking today about first class and business class. And I shared, surprising my husband with a business class ticket. He thinks it's a waste of money. I think that it's not. And I said to him, the very reason why you don't believe that we should spend that money on business is because you've never sat in business. You can't appreciate what you ain't had. You can't. Like you can say, oh, in that mindset, oh yeah, they think they're too nice because they ride first class. No, they don't. It's a standard that has been set. Now, when you sit in it, and we have this debate, I was like, when you sit in it, babe, you're never going to want to go back there. He's like, no, it will be nice. I'm sure the experience is going to be amazing. But actually, do I feel like it's worth the money? So I flipped the script. I said, if he was making $1 million a month, would it be a problem? He said, no. So I said, so it's not that you don't like the experience and think that it's worth it. It's based on your capacity and your mindset on the amount of money that you currently have. So when we make decisions, do we make decisions from a place of lack because of what we think we can afford or what we think is acceptable based on how much money we currently have in our hands? Or is it from a place of, actually, if I did have that money, I would actually do it. But we don't stretch ourselves to do anything to change that situation, so we stay in lack. I want to tell somebody today that poverty is not your portion. Abraham was very wealthy. Poverty is not your portion, and we have to disassociate from the poverty mindset. We've got to think differently. We've got to start acting differently so that we can produce different results. And I want to challenge those of us that may be making decisions from a place of lack. I've always said, if someone tells me a price and it's something I really want, but I don't physically have that finance there and then, I'm going to say, what do I need to do to get it? Not it's too expensive, I can't have it. My mindset is far from lack. I'm constantly, but because when I was in a different environment, those persons didn't really understand that mindset. They would use terms and words like, oh, she's too highty-tighty, she's what's the other words they use for you? You're bougie, right now I'm being told I'm living too much of a soft life. Whatever the terms are, you're too much, stoosh, right? But actually, it's to my level of growth. It's to the way that I believe the word of God for me that says that I am beautifully and wonderfully made and I'm part of a royal priesthood and I deserve excellence. The spirit of excellence should be around me all the time. And that's what I demand. And when I see something below the spirit of excellence, it makes me feel uncomfortable. And that's with friendships as well. That's with relationships. I think that relationships are the biggest financial investment into our future. Who you actually invest time in is going to have a direct proportion in your outcomes financially. And that leads on to number 3, trusting the wrong people. How many of us have trusted the wrong person and that's led to some kind of feeling on the inside of us? You partnered with the wrong person. You set up a business with the wrong person. You married the wrong person. Shared your business. You let your guard down to the wrong person, y'all. And it made you afraid to trust again. And so now everyone's evil. Everyone's against you. Everyone's side-eye. Trusting the wrong person is painful. And I'm not even going to brush it, right? I think we have all, unless you're under a rock somewhere, I think every single person has had an issue with someone who has broken their trust. But what I've learned to evaluate is that people behave at the capacity of their understanding. I've learned that it's sometimes not even because they intentionally mean it. Sometimes, and most of the time, it's at the capacity of their belief system. So, because people don't believe they can have it, that's why they steal from somebody else, because they don't believe that they could produce it for themselves. If somebody has to talk about somebody behind their back, it's because they don't believe in themselves enough to spend time making and helping themselves personally develop. If somebody has to lie, cheat, and steal, it means that they don't believe in themselves enough to be able to grow at the capacity where they can get the same outcomes, but doing it in a legitimate way. So it's understanding that sometimes it's not everybody's out to get you. It's that people have low self-esteem. People are dealing with a lack mindset and they cannot even trust themselves because they have a belief problem. They have a low self-esteem problem. Listen, I don't compete with anybody. I don't. Like, I never look at somebody doing well and think, oh, the only reason why they got money is because they were in early. Or the only reason why they got money is because they know such and such. Or the only reason that, no, I can't even fathom hating on someone that's doing well. In fact, I see someone doing well the right way, I'm inspired. I'm not going to hate on that person. In fact, I would more want to be friends with that person. I would love to, cross-pollinate information. I'm attracted to greatness. But persons who look at other people's money, look at other people's marriage, look at other people's relationships and hate on them, that is an insecure, low self-esteem person that does not believe in themselves. They don't even trust that they are called for a time such as this. They don't know who they are. So when you understand that when people do you wrong, it's not a reflection on whether or not you should fulfill the very purpose over your life. And sometimes when people do us wrong, the first thing they say is, yeah, I ain't helping nobody anymore. I ain't doing this. I ain't doing that. It's not a reflection on your ministry, on your purpose. It's a reflection on them. Some people don't know good when they see it. Some people don't know blessing when they see it. I've had individuals that have hurt me that I'm like, you don't even know I was riding for you. I would have did anything for you. I was sold out for your vision, but you didn't see me enough to be able to recognize that you have someone fighting in your corner. It's almost embarrassing. It's almost like you can't even see the blessing when God has handed it to you on a plate. And sometimes we got to make sure that we aren't the people that are missing a blessing in our life. That we don't have a sister or a brother that is such a blessing in our life that because of past hurt and past trust issues, that we don't allow them into the space to work in the way that God has aligned them to work in our life. Psalm 23:5 says, your cup will run over. So if we understand that there is a blessing on our life, that our cup will run over because we are who we're called to be, there's no jealousy. There's no looking at people's side eye. Like there's no leveraging relationships. Like, oh my God, is this person not my friend? Is that if you have to second guess if someone's your friend, then there's a problem there. There's a problem there. And I used to pretend that friends didn't matter. The devil's a liar. Friendships do matter. It's so important to have a friend. I hear people all the time, I don't need no friend. I don't need no one. All I need is Jesus. Lies. Lies from the pit of hell. Lies. You need friends. You need people. No man is an island. You need people. No mission ever accomplished in life was ever done by one person on their own. No. So let's stop pretending like because we've been hurt so much, we don't need people. I am pleased that God has aligned me with people that I actually love in my life. I love them in my life. And I'm grateful to have them in my life. And I'm not going to come from a place of pain and start denouncing and say, oh, I don't need people. No. No. I decree and declare today that someone on this call will decide to trust again. Yes, with wisdom. But I put to you today that sometimes our lack of trust can stop that cup from overflowing, from running over. Someone today on this call needs to be vigilant. Look at who's around you. Spend time with the people that actually love you and care for you. Focus so much on them. Don't focus on the ones that don't necessarily rate you, that don't help you. We spend so much time like, oh, these people ain't supporting us. These people. Look for the ones that are. That's how you're really going to rebuild with power. Looking for the people that have your back, right? The next one. Here's another one. You were ashamed or judged about money. So there may be a time going back to childhood where you were made to feel bad because maybe you didn't have the latest trainers. Maybe there was a time when everybody did something and you couldn't afford to go and it made you feel ashamed. Maybe like I remember growing up, there was always like these trips, like outside of school that the kids would arrange when we were like teenagers. And I remember mum always saying no. Everyone was building a life out at the weekends, and my mum always said no. And so it was that drove me to get my first job. I think I was like 12. I was like, I need to make money. I don't want to miss out. But that feeling of shame that I couldn't go, that feeling of shame that I was being judged, that I was not able because my mum was on benefits and we were living in a council property, single parent household, all that stuff. Sometimes it's criticism. Some people could criticize you or even compare you to others or maybe even misunderstand you. And so you now carry this guilt. Like so many people carry a guilt when they do have money. Like, I don't want to tell anyone. Like, there was a time when I used to be embarrassed for winning. And if you have to be embarrassed for winning around the people that are supposed to care for you, you're in the wrong crew. How can you be embarrassed for winning? How can you be embarrassed for having something that could ultimately impact the people around you, but made to feel ashamed because it wasn't quite on their level? It wasn't quite what they thought you should do. I remember when I said, I'm going to quit the bank, everyone was like, are you crazy? That's the best you're ever going to have. I was like, what, 3,000 a month? But I'm believing for bigger. I'm believing for great things. I don't want to stay at 3,000 a month. And at the time, that's going back 10 years, that was a good income, £3,000. But I saw a bigger vision. I don't know who's on this call who sees a bigger vision, but we got to make sure that we don't let anyone shame us for thinking big. You don't think I know there's some people watching my money like, oh, Nikki's selling packages for 10K. Nikki's selling packages for 3K. Oh, Nikki don't need the money. Nikki don't need this. I know I owe her, but I don't need to pay. Nikki don't need the money. Like, stop watching other people's money. Dream big for yourself. Be inspired. Don't be a hater. Be inspired when you see people making moves and cling on to that and dream bigger for yourself. I'm around some of my friends and I'm seeing them doing bigger and greater things. I'm like, okay, it's inspiring. Let's bounce. We bounce off each other. I hear my sisters doing something good. I'm like, yes, man, we're celebrating. And vice versa. Like we're in an environment of celebration. We counting other people's coins. That's some demonic business out here. That's some Judas behavior. Mm-mm. Ecclesiastes 10:19 says, money what? Answers everything. Romans 8:1 says there is no condemnation. I don't want, if you are suffering from this guilt of success or guilt of making money or guilt of being more successful than your brother, your sister, your cousin, your auntie, and best friend, you have to be released from that today because it cripples you. It holds you back from excelling to the next level. It holds you back. Today, I decree and declare freedom. I declare freedom from feeling ashamed, from belittling and holding yourself small to please others, from worrying about what other people think, from the captivity of the thoughts and opinions of man. And I decree and declare that we shall prosper freely, I decree and declare that we shall see the fruits of our labor. I decree and declare that we will walk in abundance without apology. I want someone to say amen to that. Here's a big one. We got two more. Here's a big one for us. You lost money and it broke your confidence. Yo, this one is a big one, right? I actually watched a post the other day. Who knows Cristiano Ronaldo? Everyone should. And they were in that post, they were saying, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo has missed the most penalties than any player in the world. But guess what? He's actually scored the most penalties than any player in the world. Do you know in order to win big, sometimes you got to lose big? In order to win big, sometimes there's got to be some losses along the way. Losses and winning are connected. They're one, right? You cannot win big and be afraid to lose. And sometimes one loss breaks your spirit. Sometimes one bad decision can break your spirit. I remember transferring some money to someone who was like, Nikki, I'm going to help you do this and that and that. I transferred that money, and by the time that money left my finger from the digit, the person blocked me and ran off with the money. And I tell you, I was fuming. But then I said, look at you, Nick. Like, why did you even do it? There's no contract. This is why I say sometimes we have to look into ourselves. Because when you make a loss, yeah, the loss ain't the problem. You have to look into the lesson behind it. And so what did you learn by that? I remember one time I was trading, those of you know, this going back 7 years ago. And I had my biggest loss to date, 27K in a day. I never forget it, right? 27K in a day. And I remember looking at that loss, the very next week I jumped back on it and I was trading again. But I asked myself, why did I have 15 positions open at once? Why was I over leveraged? Why was I chasing the money like some gambler? I had to learn the lesson on the loss because guess what? I vowed never to do that again. I said, listen, I'm going to open one trade, maximum two, and I'm going to keep myself going. And I tell you this, that big loss, that 27K loss is nothing right now for me. And I'm not even capping. I'm not over I don't know if that's Angela Cruikshank on the call or that's the other Angela, but my accountability partner can tell you, like when I've had 60 plus K days, yeah? And I literally rang her and I was like, sis, I rang my mentor, Pastor Luke, and I was like, oh my God, and this is why I'm saying when you're in the wrong environment, they'll make you think that money is big. Like you decide you're big. Someone said to me the other day, we were talking, and they were like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. I was like, to who? Would Oprah think that's a lot of money? If Oprah was making 100 grand a month, you know, Oprah probably would check herself into some kind of matter, be like, what's going on? Why is the money gone? Like, it's all perspective. It's all based on your belief system. It's all based on your mind. It's the parameter you set. Let me tell you this, and I got the last one, and we're going to wrap up. The woman, like, we're looking at miracles right now, yeah? And I don't know who here wants a miracle when it comes to their money, but I want you to have a look at this, and I want you to look at this and study this. We have a couple of scenarios where we have seen in the Bible Jesus perform miracles. Now, we have had one person, right, in the Bible that says, Lord, can you lay hands on me, touch me, and I will be healed? Like, I need you to heal me, touch me. And then you have another person that says, you don't even need to touch me. Just send a word and he is healed. Both healing took place. But who set the parameters? It wasn't Jesus that set the parameters. It was the believer that set the parameters. The woman with that issue of blood said, if I can just touch the what? Hem. She set the parameter. It wasn't Jesus that set the parameter. So can I put to us today that we set the parameter of our belief system? We are the ones that say, oh, can I just get 5 grand a month? Can I just get 10 grand a month? I wonder if someone on this call can believe bigger than they've ever believed before. I wonder if you can set a parameter in your life today that can turn away the lack mindset, that can turn away from I've had losses before, I've had people break my confidence before, I've made bad decisions before, I've had a lack of knowledge before, I've trusted the wrong person before, I've had wrong advice before. I wonder if you can put that to the side and say, I'm not going to hesitate, I'm not going to delay, I'm not going to hold back anymore through fear, but of the power and the anointing and the the authority of God. I will stand on his word because I know that he's given me power, love, and a sound mind, that I can literally say, although the righteous fall 7 times, hello somebody, I will rise again. I decree and declare that someone's confidence today is about to be restored. That we break fear and hesitation and holding back and doubt, and we replace it with the will of God. We replace it to rise again. We replace it with a rebuild. That we will not sabotage our own opportunities because deep down we're uncomfortable with wealth. Deep down we don't even want to be wealthy. So we break those things and we now start to sabotage. How many of you have had money and you get it, you lose it, you get it, you give it away, you get it, it's gone, it comes in, it's gone, it comes in, it's gone, it comes in again. I decree and declare that that cycle today is broken, that there will be no more going around in cycle like the children of Israel, 1 minute having a breakthrough, then going back in bondage. We break the bondage right now in the name of Jesus, that we declare today that there's going to be no more of those death cycles over our life. That we're actually going to dream bigger. That when we see the charts, when it's the higher highs, that we're about to see the new higher highs. That even the higher lows are higher than any low, higher than any high that we've had before. That's the type of belief that we have to be believing right now. That the next higher high that breaks through, that when the higher low comes, it's still going to be higher than any high we've ever had before. That's the type of breaking of chains that we need to start having and decreeing and declaring that over ourselves. The final one is that we were taught to fear money or to avoid it. How many of us were told that money is bad? It's the root of all evil and rich people are horrible. We're taught to hate rich people. Oh, look at them with their car, or rich people are corrupt, because all we see on the media is people that have money, they seem to have power, and I don't have time to go through it today. I went through with it at the trade show. But we were looking at the 4 different stages of money and how money actually arrived, and how at the beginning was the bartering system, and you would exchange a goat for a cow, and there would be an exchange there. It wasn't an exchange because of power or money. It was an exchange based on value. We look at the likes of Abraham. We look at the likes of, the prolific people in the Bible. They were not poor. In fact, wealth was their birthright. And so if we don't have a wealth mindset, we are going to declare poverty over ourselves. So we've got to change the narrative and begin to say to ourselves that all the things that we were taught to fear money and to avoid it has to be broken. We then moved into the industrial age, and then you start to see paper money started to be printed, and money then stopped being from exchanging value, and then it went to power. Then it went to power and ego. And now the purpose of this exchange changed. The original purpose was value, was to be able to manifest the purpose over your life, to be able to be blessed, to be a blessing. And then we as a people turned that into now power and position and titles. And that's where the change happened. And now we're in the digital age where right now anything is anything. You have people on there doing all sorts of stuff to get money, all sorts of things to get power, all sorts of things to do what it is. But the original purpose was an exchange of value. Right now online, people ain't even exchanging value to get this and their chat GBT in their way all the way to the bank. But how about today we recognize that if we align to the principles of God, that we look at our bank account and we question that bank account as a representation of the value that we put out into the world. If you're not happy with the amount of money that's in your account right now, look at the value that you are bringing to the world. Look at the value that you are exchanging out there in the world. Don't look at what other people say you should be doing or what other people are doing. Ask yourself, what value am I putting out into the world? Before judging someone who's making 100 grand a day, 70 grand a day, 200 grand a day, ask yourself, what value am I putting out into the world? I used to have conversations with my accountability partner. I'm like, girl, look at these people. No anointing, no gift, no talent. But hear what? They're making more than us. You know why? Because they're executing. They are putting something out and people are buying. So you know what? I understood. Nikki, start putting value out into the world. Start positioning yourself as the anointed person that God has really called you to be. Stand up and put that value out there. How many of you know that you have value and you ain't even putting that out in the world? And we know the love of money is the root of all evil. We know that. I'm not talking about loving money. I'm talking about standing up and giving the value that you were being called to do. And sometimes it's because we were overlooked before, that we attempted to do it before and it didn't work. Maybe you were undervalued before, that you gave your gift and it wasn't stewarded well in the environment that it was supposed to be. So you've pushed that gift aside. But today, I urge you to allow that gift to be stirred up again. Allow that gift to come back to its root and to its infancy stage, where you had the excitement to go again. You had that excitement and zeal to say, do you know what? Let me put some more seeds in the ground. Let me allow this gift to come out. Don't ever compare yourself to others. Every single one of us were formed for a purpose. And I want to just declare this over somebody today who may feel like they're running behind. And a lot of time we have our time and we say, oh, by the time I'm 30, I'm starting to think about things because I'm hitting, 40, as I keep saying to you guys, 2026, May is my 40th. And sometimes we say to ourselves, by the time we're 40, this is what I want to achieve. By the time I'm 50, by the time I'm 30, by the time I'm 25, and sometimes we can pressure ourselves and say, oh, maybe I'm so far behind. But I want to remind somebody today that your timing and God's timing is two different timings. You're right where He wants you to be. You're not behind. You're right on time. You're right on time because what you've learned is the experience coming up to this moment. The experience that life has taught you couldn't be rushed. The things that you've learned, the things that you've been able to overcome, the obstacles, the pressures of life. This is why when I applied to be a therapist, I applied to be a counselor at 18 and the college turned me down. They're like, you ain't lived. They were like, you can't. And I was like, no, I know everything. They're like, no. Experience can teach you far more than any piece of paper and any exam board that you go to. So you're not behind, you're experienced. You've lived life. You've been able to overcome the trials and the tribulations. So this is not a time to beat yourself up about timing. This is about you saying, okay, Lord, let me align with your timing. Let your will be done. Let your will be done. It's your time. And it's time to be in your lane, not the lane anybody else is in, not the lane other people want you to do, but your lane, your lane. And when we move with focus. We move with intentionality and confidence. We move with a spirit of boldness and watch the results come. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so fired up about this season that we're moving into. It is Accountability April, by the way, and I am excited for Accountability April, because Accountability April is where we have our accountability partners and we literally lay out what we're going to achieve in the month of April, and we're held accountable to it step by step, brick by brick, day by day. If you are in the Rebuild community, you know that we have our Rebuild meetup on the 9th, Thursday, the 9th of April. Okay. And we are going to be talking about the accountability challenge. Specifically, yes, it will be Saluka's birthday, the 9th of April. And we're going to be speaking specifically about how your accountability partners are going to help you when it comes to Speaker September. Okay, so those of you know we're going to be doing Speaker September. And if you're not currently in the Rebuild community, it's a women's only community. and where we focus on growth, we focus on positioning ourselves and also our identities to be able to live out who it is that we're called to be. You get a monthly masterclass. You also get daily homework, weekly homework, and challenges along the way. So all roads are leading up to Speakers September. So we're going to be working. There'll be a set amount of individuals inside the community that are going to be picked to be running this event in September, where we'll have a bunch of speakers on there, and really positioning ourselves confidently, boldly, and courageously in front of an audience. And so if you're not currently a part of the Rebuild VIP community, then you can go over to the community. If someone can put the link in there, that will be absolutely fantastic. It is rebuild2026.co.uk. Also, as well, we have a free community. This is for everyone, men and women. If you haven't already downloaded the Rebuild Community app, it is on your Play Store and your App Store. You will need to register at rebuildforfree.com, and then you'll be able to log into the free app. And this is where you'll get some free resources. You'll be able to see some of the stuff that we are doing in here. And I've put a bunch of money things inside that community to be able to help us. We have so many free resources in there that can really help, when it comes to money, finance, launching, and all of that kind of stuff. And we have another course that's going to be coming over from Rebuild for Free very shortly. And this is going to be about finance and the mindset around our money and how we can really transition and grow and expand. So look out for that. That is coming very, very soon. All right. Lastly, I want to, before I tell you who's on the leaderboard, shout out to all those that rolled up to the trade show. It was fantastic. It was literally the best trade show I believe we've had up until date. Those of you that were online as well, big up my sister Connie. I see Connie on here. Also as well, Danielle and Chigs, and everybody that was in the room. The power and the anointing that was in that place was amazing. And we also have the boot camp coming up. I had a few messages. Boot camp is now full. It was 10 people maximum. So look out for it next year, people. It is literally fastest finger first. Boot camp is now completely full. 10 people max, because it's just a lot for me to be able to manage and help and assist. So look out for the next boot camp. All right. But I just want to say a massive shout out to all those that were a part of the trade show. It was a fantastic time, and I cannot wait to see you guys very soon. I may drop something. I was thinking of whether we do an idea to income session, and you guys know idea to income is always lit, or whether we just go and do Speaker September. So we'll see what happens, but we'll take it from there. So leaderboard, in the last 7 days, the leaderboard has shifted. And if you go over to rebuildforfree.com, all you have to do is comment and put your top 5 takeaways from this session in the top 5 takeaway section, and you get points as you go. And every year, the person who ends up at the top will get a prize. All right. So we have in 10th place, Andrea Bedwood. Shout out to Andrea. 9th place, we have Adina Benjamin. 8th place, we have Alice Allen. 7th place, we have Sanchia. Big up yourself, Sanchia. She's actually quite new as well, and she's up on the leaderboard already. 6th place, we have Nee Buckle. 5th place, Simone McCarthy. 4th place, Sherry Vendaya. 3rd place, Connie Cons. Big up yourself, Connie. 2nd place, we have Althea Blake. And in number 1 spot for this week is the one and only Miss Audria McKellar. So shout out to Audrey. You are top of the leaderboard in the last 7 days. Well done to you. So that is rebuildforfree.com. And then once you've registered, you can just download the Rebuild Community app. It's absolutely free. There's no selling in there. It's all, it's absolutely amazing community where you're able to literally get financial literacy tips. There's challenges going on in there. You'll get books, you'll get worship music, you'll have frameworks, you'll have prayer. There's so much value that goes on in there. And all of the links to any free sessions are also put in there as well, so you'll never miss a session. I also want to encourage you to bring a friend next week. Next week is Accountability April, and we're going to be going all in. We're going to go hard next week for Accountability April. It is going to stick it on us. 4th month of the year. and we want to make sure that we are propelling and definitely being who God has called us to be. So with that being said, I want to say God bless you. Mondaymindset.co.uk is the link to join this call. It has been and it will be every single Monday, same time, same link, 9 p.m. UK time. The UK time actually went forward, so don't quote me on the Eastern Standard, nor the Central Standard, or the Jamaican time. I believe that now we've gone forward. The hours have stretched a little bit, but it's 9 p.m. UK time, so you can figure out the rest. And that is mondaymindset.co.uk, and you can catch these sessions. All right. So God bless you. Have a fantastic week. All right. Being who you're called to be, unapologetic, with a growth mindset, not a lack mindset, not worrying what people think, not holding ourselves back, making decisions from a place of growth, knowing that we stand on the word, love, power, and a sound mind. We'll be updating this onto the YouTube, so you'll be able to catch this on the replay as well. All right. So God bless you. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. And congratulations on your rebuild. Keep building brick by brick. And remember, the joy of the Lord is your strength. Take care.